feel all the good energy in this room. That's amazing. Good morning. What a pleasure to look at and see all of your lovely faces. In the words of Mr. Rogers, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. My name is Chris Zanoni, and I serve on our personnel committee and in our music ministry. The one thing, it's hard to pick, but the one thing I love about this congregation, this church, is our mission statement. And let me give you just a little bit of relatively recent history. Back in 2018 BC, before COVID, I was on the board, and we did a really heavy-duty strategic planning session where Reverend Kelly was still here. And one of the things that led to was a conversation about kind of simplifying, boiling down, extracting our 63-word mission statement. And so we approached that task quite excitedly. And I love that we have 8 words. Connect bravely, deepen spiritually, embody justice, and always love. And I'm struck by the first one right now, and I look and see a lot of new faces, which is always awesome. And a lot of folks have been here for a while, and that's awesome as well. And so to me, the connect bravely, I mean, we can connect bravely in here and share this service together and coffee hour, but there are ways to connect even more deeply, and I would give this for your consideration. I don't know if you've picked up one of these, but this is the May calendar with a wonderful message on the back from Reverend David. But this gives you a sense of all of the different activities, the variety, the ages, the things that are available. And I think from being part of committees and teams and working on projects and auction items and dinners and these kinds of events, this is an amazing way. So this is a great guide to connecting bravely. And I urge you to consider that. So I want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's visiting us for the first time. We are an intentional community gathered around our shared promise to support each other's individual spiritual journeys. We don't all believe the same things in exactly the same way, but we do share the same values and the same commitment to our spiritual growth. We share the faith that our beliefs become real when we act on them to make the world a better place. And we share the commitment to live a life grounded in community. If you're joining us online, please fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We would love to connect with you. We have a few announcements as we head toward the annual meeting next week. Is there a woohoo for the annual meeting? There you go. Thanking you. First, please nominate local nonprofit organizations for the Share Our Plate with the coming church year for the coming church year. Forms are on the counter out front. Please act quickly because we're voting in just 1 week. Second, this summer we're launching an adult religious education committee, and we need another woohoo, thank you. And we need your feedback. This is very exciting. There's a QR code for a survey on the counter out front. There's a lot of stuff on the front counter. Please fill it out. Third, a reminder that next week is the annual meeting. You've heard of it. Excellent. There's a pancake breakfast at 9 a.m. and all ages annual flower service at 10. And the annual meeting and the kids' annual meeting. I love that idea, the kids' annual meeting celebration at 11:15. There is a memory book out in the hallway to sign for Sam Henderson, where there's going to be a reception for Sam. Say goodbye to Sam and all of the time he shared his gifts with us. Please make sure you sign in if you haven't done that. And finally, on Saturday, May 31st, from 9 to 11 is our next visioning session for our building expansion project. A lot of energy in here. The Rodwin architecture team is going to share the new designs, and they want our feedback. Okay. I think that's the end of the announcements. We could make more. We could make up some. We could. The chalice is the symbol of our liberal faith. It is the warmth of compassion, the fire of justice, a lamp on the spiritual path. With fuel to eat and oxygen to breathe, a spark begins combustion, a kind of alchemy. Wax becomes heat and light. not created or destroyed, but transformed, living, radiant. This is the life our tradition calls us into, not to burn out at both ends, not to raise our lone, heroic, solitary candle, not to imagine we are the first to light a flame, not to pretend that our fire comes from our effort. This is the tradition, this is the life our tradition calls us into, together to seek that fuel which will never be exhausted, together to breathe a living breath which actually recreates us, together to become a people neither created nor destroyed, but transformed, living, radiant. In that spirit, I light our chalice this morning. To covenant is to commit that even if we fall short of our aspirations, we will not let go of them. We will never cease from trying again to live them out. In that spirit, gathered in person and online, will you all together speak our covenant out loud? We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it.
I love in a day all about mistakes, preaching on mistakes, that I forgot to wear my stole this morning. I feel underdressed. Can I ask Kay or Laura, do you mind popping into my office around the corner? It's hanging over the chair. It's ready to go. And grabbing the stole, thank you. I did not do this on purpose, and these words could not be better aligned. In his book, Perfecting Ourselves to Death, Richard Winter writes, unfortunately, many churches give the impression that their first priorities are performance and appearance. That's next week. That's next week. All right, here we go. Unfortunately, many churches give the impression that their first priorities are performance and appearance. The man who's struggling with addiction to alcohol or pornography, the woman struggling with a difficult marriage, may take one look at an immaculate church building full of well-dressed, secure, smiling people and think, this is no place for them. If only that visitor could see beneath the surface and realize how good people are at covering up the mess of their faults and failures. You know, I think already, there is no creed requirement to be here. I'm here to tell you also there is no admissions requirement, no salary requirement, no dress requirement, no soul requirement. This is a place where we gather in our brokenness, in our imperfection, beloved exactly as we are, with no contingencies, and in need of a little bit of work, all of us, no exceptions. Maybe you picked up along the way that you were supposed to be perfect. Don't make mistakes. Don't let them see you sweat. Only ever get better all the time. And there are lots of ways and places to pick that up. And one of them in the Christian tradition is the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 48. You must therefore be perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect. It's a little bracing. Folks online, I don't know if you could feel the stunned silence in the room. I don't think that any person in this house has been waiting for me to say that perfectionism is unbiblical. We're not that kind of church. I'm not that kind of preacher. But there is an instructive mistranslation at work here. The gospel writer has Jesus say, be teleoi, as your heavenly Father is teleoi. And that Greek word, when it's used to talk about people, most often it doesn't mean perfect, it means full grown, adult, mature. Don't be perfect, be a grown up. There's a second meaning, which I love even more. A digression. 15 years ago, I bought a New Testament Greek-English lexicon, and this is the second time I've ever used it. So this has been, we're going to get our money's worth. Teleoi can also be an adverb, a word that modifies a verb that explains how you go about doing that verb. And in that sense, it means entirely. You must be entirely. That is, pour your whole self into being, into actually showing up, into actually being in the world. Wake up, don't shut down. And whichever of those meanings the authors meant, the message was not that we're all supposed to be perfect. The message, which either Jesus actually said or was so important to that early Christian community that they put those words in his mouth, the message was an invitation to show up to our lives and to the world, to grow up into whole human beings, a call to spiritual maturity. Whether that's in the words a teacher set in Greek 2 millennia ago, whether that's an echo inside yourself that you already knew at some level, this is our work. Beloved, exactly as we are, to entirely live ourselves into a spiritual grown-uppedness, not to be perfect, but to grow, not to find the answers and be done, but to keep on moving on. And that spirit will open in song. I'm so glad, Elizabeth. It's been a long time, I think, since I've heard banjo in worship, and I'm so delighted that you're playing with us this morning. Will you rise and embody her spirit?
Here's a song about questions. Oh no, my microphone got turned off. Oh, hi, it's on. Oh, it's on? You can hear me? Oh, all right. Oh, I can't hear myself. That's what it is. Okay. I'm not perfect because I am a human, and those two things are incompatible. I tell my students all the time. All right, I know many of you have this deeply imprinted on your heart. Take it away, John. How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many years must a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea? Yes, and how many years must some people exist before they're allowed to be free? Yes, and how many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. Yes, and how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky, before he and see the sky. There he goes. Yes, and how many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Mother's Day, as we know it, arose in the early 20th century as an affirmation, as a celebration of the domestic role of women. Didn't stay just there. But its roots go back further. Mother's Day didn't begin in the 19th century as a celebration of the traditional wife, the subservient helpmate to the man whose job it is to protect her from a world she is incapable of facing. I hope you hear the sarcasm. Instead, in 1870, Julia Ward Howe wrote a Mother's Day proclamation for peace. She wrote it as a radical call, a still bracing call, to rouse women to make real, in fact, the world they dreamed of and know is needed. Arise, then, she says. Arise, then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have questions answered by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands will not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we've been able to teach them of charity and mercy and patience. From the voice of a devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm. Disarm. The sword of murder is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out our dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. That gentle and uncompromising call to compassion, to wake up, to take action on what your conscience knows to be true, that's our invitation today into prayer and meditation. We take a breath together. And will you join me? Spirit of life and love, Spirit of peace who demands not merely the absence of violence, but the presence of justice. Our hope and our prayer this morning is for every hardened heart to break open. Our hope and our prayer this morning is that our leaders forswear evil, which at its heart believes that they are not as worthy as us. That they forswear evil, which says some people count more than others, matter more than others, are more worthy than others. Our hope and our prayer is to stay awake, to disbelieve the doublespeak and official lies, to remember what we know, what we have always known, even when we forget or avoid or ignore. At the heart of our faith is a remembering to remain human in an inhumane world, a remembering whose we are, who we belong to in this one whole human family, a remembering and a commitment that the only answer, the only appropriate response to every mother in every form who has raised us and shaped us for the good is that we ourselves become midwives to the world we dream of. and raise love's people for this world. Be together in silence for a few moments. Amen. When we gather in ritual each week, part of what we're doing is trying to change our insides by taking action with our outsides. In moving our bodies and taking a stone and placing a stone to symbolize the joys or the sorrows that each one of us has individually. We're like sculptors of our spirits, and one tiny little chip by one chip, we're carving the gigantic stone of the self into the shape of the people we're becoming. Chip by chip, day by day, in ritual, we're shaping ourselves to recognize how hope and suffering are woven daily into our living. Shaping ourselves into people who recognize that beauty and tragedy are everywhere, all the time, every day. For those of us gathered here in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel moved. Start with the back half of the room, then the sides, then the front. And silently to take a stone and feel the weight of it, and let it be an emblem of your thankfulness or your worry or both. And then place it in this sacred earth in the company of all the joys and sorrows of the gathered community. This morning, we hold in love all the mothers and the mothers of the earth with blessings and gratitudes. We rest in solidarity with all families in war-torn areas who have nowhere to go and no way out. We join in celebration with Barb and Fred, who are able to be at Marlon Kropp's graduation from CU's College of Engineering. And we hold in love the Martin Fittpeister family, who have a cousin, a relative, a little one, having trouble getting air into his lungs. And birth mom and son have been in the hospital for 5 weeks now, still hoping for answers and a way to go home. For all of this celebration, for all of this pain, for all of this hope, I invite you to come forward as you feel moved.
when I invited Elizabeth to play music for the service, she said right away, I think I want to play This Land Is Your Land, and I want to do all the verses. And I said, I was in elementary school in the 1980s, and I only learned 2 verses to this song, and I thought that's all there was. I didn't know. I didn't know actually until I was getting my doctorate, and I was in a choral class called Empowering Song, and it was all about, like how do we use music to provoke conversation and have really big discussions about really big things. And one of those questions was land, and like what even is it, and who owns it, and who's it for? And so then I started to learn these other verses, and I thought, that's a really good song. That's not really an elementary school song at all, is it? And I think what's so beautiful about the songs that Elizabeth chose for this service is that some of them, obviously Blowin' in the Wind is from the 60s, This Land Is Your Land is from a little bit earlier than that, and these other ones that we're going to sing, and yet they are still so timely, and the questions are still so important, and the messages are still so relevant. And so I just think there's something so beautiful about this thread, right? And so we're going to do this one together. So will you rise in body or spirit? We're going to sing all the verses, y'all. Just like Woody wanted. All right. Who starts this one? I forget. You. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I've roamed and rambled and I've followed my footsteps in the sparkling sands of her diamond desert. And all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. When the sun came sunning and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, as the fog was lifting, a voice was chanting. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking, I saw a sign there, and on the sign it said no trespassing. But on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. In the shadow of the steeple, I saw my people. By the relief office, I seen my people. As they stood there hungry, I stood there asking, is this land made for you and me? Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can ever make me turn back. This land was made for you and me.
You may have heard that next Sunday is our annual meeting. So I feel like I feel like I can't resist telling a quick annual meeting story. in the winter 3 years ago, barely emerging from pandemic, the board, the finance council, the minister faced an impossible reality in crafting the budget for the coming year. The board had already cut back mightily during pandemic, and emerging from it, people were tired and engagement was challenging, capacity was so much less. Folks who had drifted away weren't all coming back again. This wasn't just us here. This was everything everywhere 3 years ago. That was only 3 years ago. So they proposed to the congregation a budget with a deficit of $90,000, which was a good chunk of the total, and a 3-year plan to get back to balanced. We'd reduce that by a third each year. This is sort of really glamorous stuff you come to church for, right? Well, I'm happy to say 3 years later, the board has a balanced budget for you to vote on next Sunday. But that's fair. That's fair, but that's actually not the story I want to tell. The actual story is that this week, I heard about another community nonprofit in another part of the country, same kind of size as us, who had run a similar deficit and now are headed into their 5th year of doing that. They've used up their reserves and emptied their accounts. They're looking for loans. They don't yet know that they're already in an existential crisis as an organization. When I tell you the story that way, it sounds so obvious. From the outside, from 1,000 miles away, without any additional context, it sounds like what they're doing is somewhere between absurd and tragic. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. This is one definition of insanity. But it is so easy to fall into this pattern of doing the same thing that you've done before, but telling yourself that this time it's going to be different. Addicts know this pattern really well. This time, doing exactly the same thing that I've done before will be different. I got sober from alcohol as a young adult, but I still remember very clearly the way my brain worked. It went something like this. If we pick up in spring, you know those nights in early spring where for the first time you can smell the earth again? Like that night, and it just feels so good. Something's coming back alive. I would smell that smell in early spring and think, this is just the sort of night that a drink would be wonderful. And then we're headed towards it already. You know the swallows came back this last week or two. And those summer days with the swallows going overhead and that long, late twilight, everything starts to cool down and the breeze blows through, and I would think to myself, oh, this is just the right time of year for a drink. And then in the fall, with that first little bit of wood smoke and the crunch of leaves and the late afternoon light turning towards evening, I would think to myself, this is just the right sort of time of year for a drink. And then in the winter months, the snow, when it's so quiet with the snow outside and the world is still and you've got on long underwear underneath your jeans, I would think this is just the right time of year. My brain, all the way around 365 days of the year, never said, hey, go get drunk. It said, there's a reason. There's a reason. This day is different. This sort of day is the right day. It's the right moment. This today is different from everything else that's ever happened before. And this time it's going to be different. And I'd wake up the next day wondering, what just happened again? To be clear, though, I actually don't think this is just how addict brains work. I think this is how addiction works, but I don't think it's just addict brain. I think this is how human brains work. And addicts just, we're ambitious. We took it to an extra level, kind of above the regular. It can be so difficult to see that we're making the same mistake over and over and over again. It shows up in 1,000 ways. You leave, finally, after so long, you figure out that you're in an unhealthy relationship, and you leave it, and you go to another unhealthy relationship. Or you twist yourself into a stressed and sleepless, miserable knot of anxiety to get some work project done, and finish and swear you'll never do it again, and then the next project is just the same. Or you run a little bit more into debt from 1 month to the next, or as an organization from 1 year to the next. Next year is going to be different. The first thing in all of this, to make a better mistake, is to recognize that one is happening. And part of what keeps us from seeing that pattern is that it can be scary and overwhelming to face the reality that something's gone wrong is going wrong. Sometimes acknowledging that mistake, the failure, even just to yourself, seems incomprehensibly awful. I remember, I very unpleasantly remembered this morning what it was like being in 9th grade honors algebra 2. In that first quarter, for some of you the subject was different, but the feeling was the same. And every day that went by, I saw my grasp of the subject dwindling. I didn't understand anything that was going on. And equally as overwhelming as that feeling of not understanding it was the sense that it is very important not to tell anyone this. And to just keep on pushing into this thing that's not working until at last, after failing that first semester, I think, I switched down into the easier algebra class, and life got so much better. The first thing to do to make a better mistake is to recognize that one's happening, even when it is scary, even when it feels on the inside incomprehensibly awful to acknowledge it. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron says, failure feels raw. I think she says the most significant thing about failure is often we think of it as something that happens to us from the outside, and we either blame it on somebody else or something else, but then we move away from the rawness. We move away from holding the rawness of vulnerability in our heart by blaming it on someone else. Or the really common thing, we feel bad about ourselves and label ourselves a failure. We have this feeling that there's something fundamentally wrong with us, something basically wrong with us. Now, it's important to say, I really just don't think that all failure and mistakes are completely your own fault. I think that the idea that you are entirely responsible for creating all of your reality and everything that happens in it, it's just bad theology. We can argue about that later if you feel otherwise. But so much of failure can feel painful and can turn back inwards against yourself. And two wonderful, effective ways to stop from having to engage with it are to blame someone else or to throw your hands up and to say, I'm broken. So Pema Chodron continues and says, when you start to feel that way about yourself, maybe instead of doing the habitual thing of labeling yourself a failure or thinking there's something wrong with you, you could get curious instead. If there's a lot of, inside your head, if the weather in there is a lot of, I am bad, I am terrible, I am wrong, I am broken, if you notice that, you can start to say instead, wait a minute, what am I feeling here? Maybe what's happening isn't that I am existentially a failure. Maybe I'm just hurting. Maybe this just hurts, and that's what this is right now. She says, this is what human beings have felt from the beginning of time. If you want to be a full, complete human being, if you want to be genuine and not pretend that everything is either one way or the other, but you can hold the fullness of life in your heart, then this is the opportunity when you can get curious about what's going on and listen to the storylines, and don't buy the storylines that blame it all on your own brokenness. Sometimes, that is, the intensity of regret or shame or self-loathing makes you want to run away. Those feelings are so overwhelming that you just absolutely don't want to engage with them. But what if the intensity of that feeling, the very experience of that intensity, was a reminder to you that instead of running from it, you could slow down and get curious. What if that feeling was actually a seed for empathy towards yourself? Compassion towards yourself and the curiosity that it makes room for are tools to make better mistakes. Compassion for yourself makes it safe enough to be curious. And it's important not to skip the compassion part. I just don't think you can, hate yourself into being a better person. I haven't seen it work very well or for very long. Someone told me once that the process of learning starts by going from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. And from there onwards towards conscious competence. But the more time you spend learning how to do something, the more you realize what you're not doing right. The more you try to get better at a thing, the more mistakes you make. Well, what then? Self-compassion makes curiosity possible to see what's going on inside yourself, not to be overwhelmed by those mistakes, but to recognize them as part of the process, as part of the journey. I think what it really does is make courage possible, or easier anyway. The courage to take that inner journey. The great Quaker teacher Parker Palmer tells this story. He says, in my early 40s, I decided to go on a program called Outward Bound. I was on the edge of my first depression, a fact I only knew dimly at the time. And I thought that Outward Bound might be a place to shake up my life and to learn some of the things I needed to know. I chose the week-long course at Hurricane Island off the coast of Maine. It was a week of great teaching, deep community, genuine growth. He says, it was also a week of fear and loathing. Palmer says, in the middle of the week, I faced the challenge I was most afraid of. One of our instructors backed me up to the edge of a cliff 110 feet above solid ground. And now I should say, I know some of you are climbers. Some of you are serious climbers. But for the sake of this next part, just imagine you're regular people. Backed up to the edge of this cliff and tied a very thin rope around my waist, a rope that looked ill-kempt, that seemed to be starting to unravel, and told me to start rappelling down the cliff. Do what? I said. Just go, the instructor explained in typical fashion. So I went and immediately slammed into a ledge 4 feet down with bone-jarring, brain-jarring force. He says, the instructor looked down at me. I don't think you've quite got it. Right? I said, being in no position to disagree. What am I supposed to do? He said, the only way to do this is to lean back as far as you can until you've got your body at a right angle to the cliff so that your weight's on your feet. It's counterintuitive. It's the only way that works. I knew he was wrong. I knew the trick was to hug the mountain, to stay as close to the rock face as I could. So I tried it again and slammed into the wall again, 4 feet down. You still don't have it, the instructor said. Okay, tell me again. Lean way back and take the next step. And it worked. Until halfway down, approaching a deep hole in the face of the rock, I knew I'd need to change course and swing around to the left or the right. I also knew for a certainty that attempting to do so would lead directly to my death. So I froze, paralyzed with fear. And the second instructor let me hang there, trembling for what seemed like a long time, and finally shouted up, "Parker, is anything wrong?" I have 12 witnesses to the fact that I said the following: "I don't want to talk about it." Right? I know that feeling. I probably said that to my parents around week 5 of Algebra 2. I don't want to talk about it. "Well," said the second instructor, "it's time you learned the Outward Bound motto." I thought, I'm going to die and I'm being given a motto. But she shouted 10 words. 10 words I hope never to forget, words whose impact, whose meaning I still feel. If you can't get out of it, get into it. And she spoke them so compellingly, they bypassed my mind and went into my flesh and animated my legs and feet. No helicopter was coming to rescue me. The instructor was not going to pull me back up the cliff again. There was no parachute. There was no way out. No way out except to get into it. So I started moving, and in a few minutes, I made it down safely. Why would anyone want to embark on the daunting inner journey, he asks. Moving towards mistake and failure, the things that we haven't done or haven't done as well, the voices inside of ourselves that say we haven't just made a mistake, but we are existentially wrong in the world. Why would anyone want to turn back around and face those things instead of run from them? Parker Palmer says, there is no way out of our inner life. So we'd better get into it. On that inward and downward spiritual journey, the only way out is in and through. Sometimes we're unable or unwilling to see our own part in the mistakes we make. It feels too painful. And I have no guidance, I have no bullet list for you on do not make the following mistakes. And if you just memorize those, you're going to be fine. I have instead a much more challenging suggestion for making better mistakes, which is that when you feel shame or pain or beat yourself up, let that be instead an invitation to curiosity and compassion. Ask instead, what am I feeling here? Maybe what's happening is not that I am a failure. Maybe I'm just hurting. Maybe this situation is just bad and painful. After all, we're not supposed to be perfect, but instead to be full grown, to grow up into our lives, to become people among people, vitally engaged with life, being entirely. This work of being human, we can't get out of it, so we get into it. Amen.
If you've been hanging out here for a little while, or even if this is your very first time, hopefully the ritual of joys and sorrows gave you an inclination that we are not a good vibes only people, right? We're not here to just pretend that everything is fine. So when you see the title of this next song that we're going to sing together, you might be like, wait, we're singing what now? Keep on the sunny side of life. It's not just about pretending that everything's fine. In this instance, it's about when we feel that tension, that kind of shame spiral starting inside of us, can we, in this instance, we're going to choose the sunny side, which means looking at ourselves with that kindness, that curiosity, that's going to help us lean backwards and continue to get into that spiritual inquisitiveness. So will you rise in body or in spirit? And if you don't know this one, see if you can join in on the chorus. There's a dark and a troubled side of life. There's a bright and a sunny side too. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, the sunny side we also may view. Keep on the sunny side, keep on the sunny side, keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Storm and its fury broke today, crushing hopes that we cherish so dear. Clouds and storms will in time pass away. The sun again will shine bright and clear. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Let us greet with a song of hope each day, though the moments be cloudy or fair. Let us trust in each other always to keep us, everyone, in our care. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day, it will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life.
Well, that was a toe tapper. Here's a message from our friends at Harvest of Hope. This month we are splitting or sharing our plate with them. And this is their message. Beginning in 2012, Harvest of Hope has provided healthy food to those needing food assistance in a safe, non-judgmental way, welcoming atmosphere. Today, we serve an average of 140 shoppers daily. Unlike most pantries, shoppers at Harvest of Hope are welcome to take the food they desire in the amounts they need. This model, built on trust, brings dignity and respect to those facing a hard and stressful situation, and it works. Last year, they distributed over 1 million pounds of food to nearly 5,000 individuals and families in our community, but the need continues to grow. Nearly 35,000 Boulder County residents are experiencing food insecurity, and the cost of living is rising far more quickly than wages. Assistance benefits are being reduced, and this is sending more people into financial and food insecurity. They continue. Recently, we have seen more individuals coming to visit the pantry from outside the city of Boulder, whether from a lack of resources in their own communities or fear of utilizing their neighborhood help or restrictions to service. Harvest of Hope has been able to step in and help anyone who comes to their doors the same day they seek assistance. That takes the support of a great many people through volunteering and through financial donations. I invite you to give generously as you are able. For those who are online, you can use the QR code to find a link in the video description. For those gathered here in person, you can scan the QR code also, or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
our service gathered together this morning ends, and our service out in the world begins again. Our work here in this hour comes to a close, and our work of growing our spirits and helping to heal the world keeps on. We'll close in song in just a moment, but a few invitations for right after the service. Our art gallery opening is up and hung, and the art is unreal. It's so amazing. So let me invite you to check that out in Emerson. There are some snacks, and meet with members of that team and see the art. But first, maybe stop in the Sky Room, because it's our farewell celebration for Sam Henderson. Sam's last day was a week ago. Our new finance and operations manager, Sage Linden, starts on staff tomorrow. But Sam's back this afternoon for cake and thanks and appreciation. And if you haven't had a chance to sign the memory book for them, please do. That's all the business I've got. Will you rise in body or in spirit? Let's close in song.
Will the circle be unbroken?